back in 1996, TWA Flight 800 exploded over the air. It had lifted off from New York. There's 230 people aboard, and I'm sorry to say, of course, as you all know, that they all died. They were on their route to Paris. Scores of witnesses said that they observed a streak of light going towards the airplane and then a fireball. Now, I lived in the New York area at the time, so I know it wasn't a couple of guys. It wasn't a crackpot. It wasn't a weirdo. It was scores of witnesses all on television saying, wait a minute, I saw the streak of light go and hit the airplane and then there was an explosion. They all said the same thing, everybody who saw it. And the government did a 4-year investigation and concluded, no, it wasn't. No, you shouldn't believe your lying eyes. You should believe us. It was actually some technical issue with the fuel, and it got into the wrong part of the plane, and then it exploded. And they went and bothered to tell the pilots, hey, be careful about this, etc., and the companies, but nobody else ever found a problem like that, right? Now, it doesn't matter because our government would never lie to us, so it's not an issue, except now we find out through a new documentary that is, by the way, called, unsurprisingly, TWA Flight 800, that there were 6 whistleblowers who say otherwise. They were investigators on the case. Now, first, before I get to them, let me explain to you some of the other parts of the documentary. Here is one of the people that participated in the movie. Of course, everyone knows about eyewitness statements, but we also have corroborating information from the radar data, and the radar data shows an asymmetric explosion coming out of that plane. Okay? So we've got the witnesses, and we've got radar. Okay? And by the way, also from the movie, not one single eyewitness, quote, not one single eyewitness was allowed to testify. That's unheard of. So that's the producer of the movie. Okay, so that doesn't sound very good. And then we go to the issue of these investigators. And let me give you just 3 out of the 6 so you get a sense of who they are. Hank Hughes, who served as the senior accident investigator for the National Transportation and Safety Board. Those are the guys who did the investigation. He was their senior accident investigator. He's now a whistleblower. Bob Young, TWA investigator, that's of course the airline that was involved, who participated in this investigation. And Jim Spear, an accident investigator for the Airline Pilots Association. They all waited for retirement before blowing the whistle. Now, gee, I don't know why anybody would be afraid of blowing the whistle against the government these days, because usually when you do, you get charged with the Espionage Act. But at least they have the courage now to come forward and say this. They're on tape. And here is one of the conclusions of the documentary. These investigators were not allowed to speak to the public or refute any comments made by their superiors and or NTSB and FBI officials about their work at the time of the official investigation. So not only did they know that there was something fishy here and something was being hidden, but they weren't allowed to talk about it. One of them in the movie explains that 3 FBI officials that were not part of the case snuck into the hangar where the evidence was one night. Now, nobody ever knows what they did with the evidence that was in the hangar or who they were. Just came in, they did whatever they did in the middle of the night and left. No, but your government would never lie to you, right? No, just bow your head and trust the government. I mean, people like Michael Hastings and Jeremy Scahill and Glenn Greenwald, journalists who are telling you what the government's up to, that the government doesn't want you to know. Of course, they should be treated with disdain, and they should be attacked by the Washington Press Corps, who, of course, unearthed this a long time ago, right? Right? Oh, right, they didn't. They didn't do any of that. Instead, they took the government report and reported it dutifully, as is their job, or they think is their job, as the PR flags of the government. So it turns out there's a lot more about the TWA 800 flight that we need to know. Will they look into it now? Well, the National Transportation Safety Board says, we rarely reopen cases, but no investigation has ever fully closed. So sure, we'll take a look at it. But it seems that their heart's not really into reinvestigating this issue. 6 different whistleblowers, investigators that all worked on that case. What's amazing is no matter how much evidence you have, I guarantee you, and I know it because I saw Brian Ross, who, by the way, otherwise a very good investigative reporter on ABC News. Even he was disdainful of this documentary. As he's reporting it today on ABC, I saw him say, well, look, this has been thoroughly investigated already, so none of this is proven. Wait a minute. Here are the investigators who worked on it. And they say they wouldn't let us say anything. And they're saying the guys that went into the hangar might have manipulated the evidence, so what was quote-unquote proven wasn't actually proven. They're not from the outside. They're investigators that worked on that particular investigation. But no, yeah, I don't know about that. That's not proven. Whatever the government says is always proven, always correct. And that's the problem, man. The reporters have a presumption that the government is always right. You'd have to really, really go out of your way to prove that the government isn't right for them to go, that is a very rare and strange case. And I still don't quite, I've got a lot of skepticism towards it, but interesting information, right? Whereas good reporters say, okay, that's what the government says, now let's find out what the truth is. Doesn't mean that the government's always lying, doesn't mean the government's always wrong, of course not. But you shouldn't just blindly trust them and hope for the best. If the families of the victims in TWA Flight 800 trusted the government and hoped for the best, unfortunately, this is what they got, and it was a pack of lies.